going on, people? Welcome to United View. Welcome to a very, very special edition as we lead up to Manchester United versus Atletico. I've got to get my pronunciation right, first of all. There's no TH, so it's not AF. And I've got poor English, so I say AF. If there's a TH, I usually put an F there for slang. So it's Atleti. So I'm going to be quite uncomfortable saying that. But I am joined by Semra Hunter from La Liga TV to get an in-depth analysis on Atletico. Semra, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm great. And I really appreciate you pronouncing Atletico correctly, because it does drive me up a wall sometimes when I see people throwing the H in there. I'm like, no, that's a different team, actually.
I didn't even realize until like a few weeks ago, someone in the comments and our viewers were saying, Flex, it's not that. There's no TH. And I was like, I had to actually go and look at the spelling. I was like, wow, there actually is no H. And like I said, I speak in slang, so even if there was a TH, I wouldn't even say the Atletico. I'd say Atletico. Terrible. So I've got to get it right. Exactly. It's all good. But the reason why I thought this was so good to do is to get an in-depth analysis of Atleti to see, you know, how they're doing, who the star men are, what they're struggling at. Some of the, you know, is it going to be hostile there? What's the atmosphere like? Because I think as fans of our own clubs, we're so emotionally invested into our own clubs, i.e. Manchester United only. And I watch Atleti if they're in the Champions League or if they play against Barcelona or if they play against Real Madrid. I watch the big games, but I'm not going to profess to know too much more than that. And that is why I think this is important. So over to you, I think, Semra. I mean, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, how are they doing now? What sort of form are they in going into this game?
I think the best way I can describe this, nice and short and sweet, is that, to borrow from Forrest Gump, they're like a box of chocolates. You have no idea what you're going to get. And honestly, that's just how they've been all season long. They've been incredibly erratic and irregular, and they're capable of playing really, really well or just absolutely terribly. So, and it seems to be bouncing from one extreme to the other each and every week, and in all of the different competitions. So last week, let's say this past week, and let's start there, they played Osasuna. Okay, they were away to Osasuna, where they tend to do really well. They tend to take really favorable results. The last 4 trips that they had there, they scored at least a minimum of 3 goals and kept 3 clean sheets. They did the same thing. They won 3-0. It was exactly the kind of balm for the ailments that they really needed, scoring freely and also keeping that clean sheet, not just for the team, but Jan Oblak. Jan Oblak is having a horrendous season.
We all know on my agenda, that one.
Exactly. We can come back to him later then.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the week before that, they played Barcelona away. And I think it was anyway. The games are coming so thick and fast, so I might be out of order here. But in any case, it's important to mention that game because they were so tactically out of their depth and they were completely lost. They had no idea how to deal with Adama Traore, for example, in the opening 45 minutes. Simeone was way too late in making changes, and he actually swapped Carrasco from one flank to have him drop deep and to help out Hermoso, who's actually a centre-back. He was playing a left-back in that game, to try and help him out, but it was too little too late at that point. And that's one of the things that is sort of a small snapshot of what Atletico Madrid are all about this season, which is to say that they're a victim of their own success. So historically, they've always been the underdog, the perpetual underdog, fighting the good fight against the big clubs like Real Madrid and Barcelona with all the money. But Simeone being Simeone and playing Simeone ball, if you like, super deep in terms of closing up shop, playing defensively, grind out a 1-0 victory if you can. Probably no manager in the game has more 1-0 victories to his name than him. They started winning silverware. And by virtue of becoming more and more successful, it's actually made them weaker in a way. And the reason I mention all of that is because it's all come to a head this season. And that's what made them so regular. Here is Atletico Madrid buying up all these big names, these stars. He signed Joao Felix for 120 million. He's the most expensive signing ever in club history. He's a flair player. He has loads of talent, but he doesn't really fit into the mold of what Simeone is all about. The same with plenty of other players that have come through, you know, GRIEZMANN coming back to the side, for example, or signing players like Thomas Lemar, who had a really terrible start, but now he's shining a little bit not having a great season right now, but at the start of the season, he was brilliant. So in general, you have all of these players who are very talented, who are very offensive, who like to play attacking football, which is the opposite to what Simeone is all about. So he's trying to find this balance, and it just hasn't really been working. So he has this squad that is the best that's ever been assembled in club history, and yet it just doesn't match the profile of who he is as a coach.
There's a lot of similarities there in terms of Manchester United, in terms of you don't know what you're going to get, inconsistency, capable of being like this and then capable of being like that. A lot of offensive players at the disposals of both teams, but can't always keep clean sheets. And that was, I think the other game you was talking about was Levante. They lost against bottom of the league in their last home game, didn't they? Which was incredible. Defensively,
that was the game in between.
That was the game, between the Barca.
Yeah.
And I remember I did see that result, and I thought, wow, that's not good. And I started looking through some of their results, and again, I don't profess to watch them, but the kind of general consensus I got completely matches, the in-depth analysis you just gave there, which is actually this is the team that is synonymous for keeping clean sheets and grinding out results and very difficult to score against, to actually now go into having a really bad defensive record. How are they in terms of defensively, and how is that something that can help Manchester United?
I think he's been toying around with the structure a little bit too much. He was always 4-4-2. He's been at the club for 10 years now as a manager, and 9 times out of the 10 for the seasons, it's been 4-4-2. You know exactly what you're going to get from them. But last season, he started changing things up again, started changing things up for the first time, because I think of the players that he had in the squad. Kieran Trippier is a perfect example. He went with 3 at the back, and he used wing backs, which is something that he wasn't using at all in previous campaigns. And Kieran Trippier was one of the most important players in that squad that helped them win the league title. And so that 3 at the back, 5 at the back, call it whatever you want, depending what state of the game you're in, whether you're in attack mode or you're in defense mode, it was really, really functional for them. It worked really well, but this season it's just not coming off. And so I think you see Simeone almost overcorrecting a little bit too much, where he's changing the shape in the system and even the style of play anywhere between 2 to 3 times in a single match. So it's leaving players confused as to what their role is on the pitch, what they're supposed to do, what moment they're supposed to do it. And so it's backfiring in a way. It hasn't helped that they've had a lot of injuries in defense, that they've had COVID issues, just like everybody else. But they've shipped 34 goals alone in La Liga this season. That is the joint 12th worst record in the division. And
that's incredible for a team like Atletico Madrid, who you see, I nearly did it there. For a team like them,
well done. You caught yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I caught myself. For a team like them, that's just not heard of, is it?
It's not. It's really, really rare. And a lot of journalists have been asking Simeone time and time again, what's going on? Why is this happening this season? And even he has said, listen, if I knew what was happening, then I would fix it, right? And again, I think that's some of the parallels with Ranić, right? He's like, I'm trying to sort it all out, but there's so much happening all over the place that it's going to take more than just one person to fix things. And you even have players like, I think it was, who was it? I'm trying to remember who it was. Maybe it was Jimenez. I think it may have been Jimenez a few weeks ago after the game. He was really brutally honest and open, which is something you don't often get from a lot of footballers right after a match. And he said, listen, you know what? I think part of it is that we've all dropped our level a little bit, whether it's conscious or unconscious, after winning the title, after pushing so hard across the 9 months, especially when they let that 12-point gap slip after January. They were pushed to the limit to the very end to actually get the title. That this season, they've kind of mentally relaxed a little bit, and they've taken their eye off the ball a little bit. And so that really has worked against them. And it's just really interesting to hear somebody from within the dressing room come out and openly say that, we're not as hungry or as motivated or as driven as we were last season. Luis Suarez is a perfect example. He's so motivated by proving his worth, especially in the case to Barcelona, since they showed him the door, he didn't want to leave. It was all about, well, I'll show you. And that's what he did. He was one of the top scorers in the league, even though he could barely walk around a pitch because his knee was so bad. And yet they won the league in his first season there. So that's gone. That's evaporated. And I think a lot of that has disappeared for a lot of these players. And I think it has affected them mentally. And it certainly has affected them defensively. And I think it hasn't helped that he hasn't been able to repeat a back line all too often. And he keeps changing, as I say, between a back four or a back five. And players are playing out of position. Kieran Trippier is now gone. That's a big blow to them. So you don't really have, or he doesn't have, a player that he can trust in that right back position. He's been using Versalico now a little bit more. He wasn't using before. He even puts Marcos Llorente there, who is kind of like the Saul of previous days, where he was just the jack of all trades, the utility player. You can throw him in anywhere on the pitch and he'll deliver for you. So there also hasn't had much of a left back really that he's trusted in either. Lodi is an out and out left back, but he hasn't really been using him very
So
often.
it's very unsettled from what you're saying. It's like even Simeone doesn't know how to kind of rebrand this team, restructure this team in transition. Okay, fair enough. In terms of, I wanted to ask you about some individuals. I mean, one thing Man United fans would be, acquainted with is the attacking players, the likes of Antoine Griezmann, the likes of Carrasco, the likes of Lamar, obviously João Felix, the star boy. I just want to talk about Griezmann a little bit before we talk about some other individuals. How has his return been? I saw he was an unused sub in the last game. Has he been back to his best? Is he someone that is in good form right now, or is he having a little bit of a rough spell?
Well, he's actually been injured. So that's why he was on the bench in the last game. So he's only just returned and he's not match fit yet. And it's still actually a bit up in the air as to whether he'll be fit enough to play against Manchester United. But overall, he's done pretty well. It was a little bit of a tricky start for him coming back, I think mostly because the fans were actually on his back. They were really upset with the way that he behaved whenever he left the club initially. They hadn't forgotten about it.
I remember that. There was like an announcement video where it was like, we were waiting. Was it this club? Is it this club? And then he done that big video. Yeah, I could see why they were annoyed.
And it was a video that was produced by PK's company. So it was just...
it was insane, yeah.
It was insane. It was ridiculous. And so the fans were really insulted and rubbed the wrong way by it.
Did they not want him back? Did they not want him back? Did they not want him to come back?
They didn't want him back. Most of them.
Really?
I should say most of them. There were some that obviously were like, listen, he's a fabulous player. Barcelona don't want him. We'll take him. But most of them were really unhappy. And they made that sentiment known.
I bet.
Especially when they played at home. He had to work to earn them back on his side. And he has. He's worked incredibly hard. Even if he hasn't been able to play in a position that really suits his strengths, where you can really see him shine on a regular basis, he's tracking back, working really hard defensively, which is something that other players aren't going to be able to do, like Luis Suarez. He can't track. I mean, he can, he's hobbling around the pitch. He's not going to be involved whenever it comes to defensive work. And he also can't press very high. So you just have to kind of leave him on his own as an oasis up top and just try to get
he scored nearly the goal of the season the other day, didn't he?
He did.
Unbelievable.
He scored from his house, basically.
Yeah.
But he's worked exceptionally hard on the ball, off the ball. Even if he hasn't been scoring a lot, he has been pitching in, helping out those around him to find the back of the net. And I think Simeone has been very happy with what he's seen. And I think he's also regained his confidence, because at Barcelona, he really lost his confidence.
He did, yeah.
And a lot of it had to do, again, with the structure and the style of play of Barcelona. And he probably shouldn't have come in the first place. He was never really going to be a proper fit. It was kind of like, round peg, square hole kind of thing. But because he had had success with Simeone before, even though they played in a very different way, and he had the backing and support of Simeone, I think it was a good move for him to go back. And it's working well for him, let's say in general terms this season. But right now, obviously, he's just coming back. He's nursing an injury. So we'll see what happens on Wednesday.
Hopefully he doesn't make it in time. Then hopefully he needs a couple more weeks.
He's not the one you need to worry about, I should tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, I was going to talk about Carrasco not being able to play. I know that's quite a big thing. He's been really good. How him not playing? How much of a miss is that for Atleti, and how much of their play does come through him?
It's a miss, but I'd be more concerned if Angel Correa was not there. He, for me, has been the best player of the season. And he's someone who flies under the radar, hardly gets any attention for what he does. He doesn't have a flashy name. He's not very often talked about. He doesn't get the headlines, but he has been the most consistent player for Atletico Madrid this season. And he's someone who works unbelievably hard, quietly goes about his business, and has to constantly prove himself over and over and over again. And Simeone is a huge fan of his. It's very obvious the way that he talks about him. They have a really close relationship. He's also Argentinian, so they share that bond of coming from the same country. But, you know, you have Joao Felix, who's the most expensive signing ever, record signing. You have Luis Suarez, who has been one of the best strikers probably ever in the history of the game. You have Cunha, who's just come into the side. He doesn't get very many minutes, but when he does, he's very effective and he tends to score. You have Carrasco, as you pointed out, who has been sensational since returning to the club from China. He's a completely different player. The system of the wing-backs has been working really, really well for him. He's been tracking up and down like a piston up and down the flank.
Yeah.
And he's been whipping in a lot of crosses. He's also been finding the back of the net on a regular basis. So there's all these flashy names. I mean, to that end, you didn't even mention him, for example. You mentioned basically everybody else.
All the star names.
Exactly. So he doesn't get the credit that I think he really deserves. He's the top scorer for the team. I think in La Liga it's 11 goals now. It's 12 overall in all competitions. I think maybe 4 or 5 assists as well. But it goes beyond that. It's what he also does in terms of elevating the game of those around him, how well he reads the game, how well he reads the spaces, knowing when to attack, knowing when to link up with somebody, what he can offer on the ball, what he can offer off the ball. And I think he's just a really good example for those around him of somebody who, like I said, just kind of quietly goes about his business, doesn't complain. Most of the time he comes off the bench, even though he really should be starting, if I'm honest with you. And I just came across this unbelievable stat, which is that he has scored on average every 92 minutes in 2022. There's only one other player in the top 5 leagues in Europe who has scored with that much efficiency. Do you know who it is?
It's got to be Lewandowski, hasn't it?
It is. But the difference is that Lewandowski has actually played more minutes. He plays all the time. And Correa doesn't.
That's insane.
So it's insane. And you know, he had heart issues. He had to come over that. He's come from a really difficult background with his family, and he's overcome that. So he's just, I think, a great example overall, and he's been brilliant for them.
He sounds like,
and I'm telling you, he's the one.
He's the one. And he
he's
also sounds like,
he
sounds like the typical underdog mentality of Simeone that actually encompasses Atleti, of what they actually stand for as that underdog, trying to come to the forefront. No one's really speaking about them, and then they're you know, doing their thing. And it sounds like that's what Correa has been doing. To be fair, I have seen him before, but I didn't see that he was that highly regarded. So that's, again, this is why I love doing things like this, because you just think of the main names. You watch a couple of games here and there, and you don't know. We don't know, and I think that's why this is so brilliant. I could have just done this by myself, doing a preview for Atleti and say, well, here's a couple of goals here. But the truth is, it's robbing the viewers of what actually is a true picture, and that's fantastic. I wanted to talk about Jan Oblak, because you mentioned it at the top of the video. He's having a horrendous season. I was looking at some of his stats. You know, I think out of the shots he's faced versus the percentage he saved is way down, one of the worst in the league.
It's the worst in 2022 of any goalkeeper in the top 5 leagues. I think it's incredible. Like it's almost 25%, the ratio.
For Jan Oblak as well. I mean, we've got David De Gea, obviously, came from Atleti all those years ago. It seems I always forget that. He's been at Manchester United so long, I forget that we got him from there, right? But 2 fantastic keepers facing off in a huge game, and you would argue that actually, if one of those has a fantastic game, there'll be the platform for one of their teams getting a positive result. But on Oblak, though, what's happened to him this season? Is it the fact that Atleti now concede more chances and don't defend as well as they did? Is it the fact that his level, he's been a top keeper for 10+ years himself? Is it that his levels come down? What is it?
I think it's a mixture of everything. I think he doesn't trust fully those that he has in front of him to protect him. And I do think they leave him a lot more exposed than they ever used to. So now he's called into action a lot more. So by nature of having more work to do, you're obviously going to make more mistakes, concede a bit more. And so I think that's probably affected him on a mental level, on a psychological level. He has made some, let's say, silly mistakes for him, things that you wouldn't expect to see, things that he hasn't done in the past, conceding goals that are a little bit too easy, things that he should have saved or would have saved before. But I definitely think it's not all down to him. It's, again, the whole structure of the way that the team is built and how they're playing. And they're not necessarily playing in a way that's coordinated, or it can be quite disjointed at time, or maybe there's only spells of, let's say, 20, 30 minutes where they can dominate the game. Then all of a sudden they just completely disappear. So I think that erratic form all across the board isn't helping him. But definitely they've been really poor when it comes to defending set pieces, which is something they used to absolutely excel at, not just defending, but also scoring. They used to have that as one of their main strings to the bow. And they've been conceding, I think, more, I can't remember exactly where they are on the list in this category, but they certainly are one of the teams that ship the most goals from corners or from free kicks or from any kind of set piece. So I think, yeah, I really do think it's just a mix of everything, probably the general mood in the dressing room. And I think also when you see your leader like Simeone, someone who has been so dogmatic in his ways for so many years and had such a clear idea about what he wants from his players, all of a sudden second guessing himself to the point where he sat down with the players not too long ago to say, what do we do?
Yeah, how do we fix this? Yeah,
how
crisis
can we
talks.
fix
Yeah.
this? That doesn't send a great message, does it? So I think he's also, again, just one of these players that is probably caught up in the whole general feeling and movement, kind of similar to Manchester United. I think there's so many players, you look at that squad and you think on an individual level, there's a lot of talent in that list, but I think they're all probably victims in a way of just the whole bigger picture of everything that's happening around them. It's hard not to be affected by that, So I think it's just, in his case, something probably similar.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because he obviously is a top draw keeper. We've seen it with David De Gea, where he lost himself, the confidence.
Yes.
David De Gea of a couple of years ago went through a really bad spell, making uncharacteristic mistakes. Almost, I remember a time at Watford, the ball was just in the air. David De Gea just collided with the post. It just fell in the net. Like, really uncharacteristic stuff. I think he gave the ball to Calvert-Lewin one time at Everton, just passed it to him, and then they scored. And you can see that the confidence gets sucked up. But then he's managed to dig himself out of that and has been saving us consistently all season. So I'm interested to see the battle of those two, because I think for us to get a positive result in the first game, we need Oblak to continue his poor form, and we need David De Gea to continue.
I would say you're probably fortunate in that department. I would say De Gea is in a much better run of form, probably feeling a lot more confident of his abilities, his abilities right now than Oblak. Though I think that was the first clean sheet he's kept on the road all season. That would probably help.
Wow.
But again, Osasuna is not Manchester United.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. I want to talk a bit about midfield. Manchester United fans we're always up in arms about our midfield, the balance, the lack of control. But then other times, like you mentioned, it can be unbelievable if Paul Pogba goes on and does what he goes to do, or Bruno, and whether it's Fred and McTominay. Sometimes we question the quality, etc., etc. But I've looked at Atletico's last game with the 4-4-2, and they went with Koke and Herrera in central midfield. In terms of their engine room in central midfield, how are they? Are they high intensity? Are they dogged? Are they high pressing, or are they reserved and maybe only pressing in their defensive half? Do they try and get the ball forward quickly? How are they? How do they play?
Again, in general, they've just been a little bit all over the shop. And Koke is kind of the only one that is regularly in there on a consistent basis. He's captain. He's been at the club for many, many, many years. He is sort of the number one soldier for Simeone. And whenever he's available, he plays. He plays pretty much all the time. The thing is that his level has really dropped this season overall. And I think that's the same for a lot of the different players that are in the engine room. Rodrigo de Paul, he landed in the summer. He was really good at the beginning, had a great start, but his form has also dipped off. Kondogbia, sometimes the same, a little bit inconsistent. And again, I think it's just sort of the overall picture this season is that you don't really know what version of them you're going to get. You know that they are very capable of pressing and playing with aggression and playing physical football and playing with intensity and trying to push forward and camp out in the opposition half. They are capable of doing that, but they don't always do that. Maybe they'll do it for spells of the game. I think they'll also be more open to inviting pressure from United, sitting a little bit deeper, and then trying to hit them on the counter, on the break. I think that's something that we can definitely see from Atletico Madrid. But depending on what stage of the game we're in, I suspect we'll see different versions of Atletico Madrid. And so my main concern from them in the midfield is that overall, I think they have been underperforming, and I think they can do better. They're capable of doing better, but it depends on the day.
And literally, I'm getting a sense of that. Literally, Man United vibes. Which team is going to turn up? Is it Team A or Team B? And for how long? There's been periods in games. I'm sure you've seen a lot of Manchester United this year where half an hour spells playing really well, first half playing really well, or second half. But we just can't sustain it for 90 minutes. And I'm getting the vibes that that's exactly what you're getting with Atleti, which actually. This is why this is very evenly matched. Although we might be the slight underdogs considering where we've been at. To be fair, there's a lot of encouragement there to look at it from a Manchester United fan's perspective. Is that fair to say that actually there's a real chance of being able to win this over 2 legs?
I definitely think so. I do think so. I think looking at all of the matchups at this stage of the Champions League, this is the one for me that I genuinely can say I have no idea how it's going to play out because they are so similar in so many ways, and they're almost on like this parallel trajectory this season. And it's just so difficult to know what's going to happen because they can be at one extreme or the other. And they're not capable of maintaining really good football over the 90 minutes. I don't think either of the teams are able to do that. And so I think it almost comes down to whoever can get a better home result. I think it will really come down to the home form more than anything else. Atletico Madrid, they're trying to stay in the top 4 in La Liga. That's their aim for this season.
Just like Man United.
Manchester United. Exactly. It's not that dissimilar. They're the ones that are in 4th right now, Manchester United, and what I think they have like a 4-point gap over West Ham. But Atletico Madrid are level on points with Barcelona, but they're 5th on goal difference. And Barcelona are starting to go like this, and Atletico Madrid are
leaving them behind. And Atleti are coming from being champions as well. It's a big fall. Scraping top 4 from being champions, and I think that's where. Maybe along with Man United, that's where our expectations wasn't at that point. They should be as Man United, but we're not in that place. But I think the fall that Atleti have had in that short space of time is what's probably worrying them. In terms of their fans, the atmosphere at the Wanda let me get that right. Metropolitano, is that right?
Metropolitano.
Metropolitano.
Perfect.
Metropolitano. There you go. In terms of the atmosphere there, I'm really looking forward to going out there tomorrow, doing some stuff there and getting a look in behind the scenes of exactly what it's like there. But on a match day, what can the Man United fans expect in terms of the energy, the culture, the intensity, the fierceness from the fans versus could Man United play on that because they're nervous or, they could help pile on the pressure and get the fans on their own team's back?
I think that in this game in particular, no, I don't think Manchester United will be able to use that to their advantage in the way that you're saying of trying to get the fans to turn against their own team.
Yeah.
I don't think so for a few reasons. One is if there's one thing that Atletico Madrid do have, and it hasn't gone away, and they can tap into that if they need to, is their fighting spirit. And that is really what has seen them pull some results out of the bag, even if they're playing really poorly. They don't give up. And I think that the Champions League is so important to them and so important to the fans that they're not going to give up before they even start, especially because they're playing at home first. And the atmosphere there, you'll see, it's buzzing. It's electric. It's fantastic. I imagine the game, the stadium will be filled to the rafters for this one. and you'll just see a sea of red and whites, which are the two main colors for Atletico Madrid. And you'll see the flags and people dressed up as, their nickname is the Indians, Los Indios. Also Los Colchoneros, which means the mattress makers, but that's another story for another day. So you'll see people dressed up and you know, the usual, just like you would at Old Trafford, for example.
Yeah.
But the thing
no one's dressed up at Old Trafford though. No, there's no costumes.
I mean, you know, you're wearing your club's colours, though. You're wearing
yeah,
your
club
kit,
colours,
right?
club colours. Yeah, club colours.
But they always play AC/DC's Thunderstruck before every game, and they have a light show that goes with it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And I just love
going.
it. I just think it's great. And
yeah,
even if I'm not there, it kind of sends shivers through the spine because it just looks cool and it sounds cool. And I think it's a really nice way for a team to make themselves presented to the 12th man. And the 12th man can be amazing. I'm sure you've seen Simeone and his antics on the touchline.
Unbelievable. That's what I'm seeing, that the fans of the 13th man, because like you said, they've got the 12th in Simeone running up and down in a Hugo Boss suit like a lunatic. Just doing absolutely crazy stuff. And then, you know, when he has this thing, I'm sure I know you would have seen it all the time, turning around to the fans, come on, let's do this, So 100%, I think it's be very, very hostile. I mean, I followed United away through pretty much all of the European games for quite a while now. And, you know, when we've gone to Paris, the same thing. It's when the players walk out, they hold up like banners or posters and flyers, shiny stuff. It's really, really intimidating. Same as Sevilla, actually, when we played, when we went to what's it, the Ramon Sanchez Stadium, I think it's called.
Yeah.
There you go. Same thing, really, really energetic. When we went to Valencia, same thing. For that night, we lost then as well. So it really is tough. It really, really is tough going abroad in Europe and seeing that. So I just wanted to see what their kind of atmosphere is like, because it's a new stadium as well. You know, sometimes when a club moves stadium, some fans can be like, oh, we've lost a little bit of our history and we have to build it back again. There's a new set to the fan base who weren't season ticket holders before because it's bigger, it's a new generation. How do we recapture that? But it seems like Atletico have done a good job of still maintaining a crazy atmosphere.
Yeah, overall. I mean, it's not the Vicente Calderón, which was their original stadium, which was falling apart.
Oh, it was so old. Yeah, it's crazy.
But I loved it. There was something about the energy there and the cauldron shape to it. And I loved going to games there. And the crowd were marvelous. And they were on your back all the time. Talk about a hostile environment. That was a really hostile environment. And it's true that the new stadium doesn't lend itself to that because it's bigger. They're a little bit farther away from the pitch. It's not quite the same feeling. But they have done a really good job of going to games on a regular basis, even though now it's outside Madrid, it's on the complete opposite side of town. It is a bit of a pain to get to, but they have done a good job of going to games and being supportive of the team and being supportive of the club. And yeah, I mean, you'll see Simeone definitely trying to rile up the crowd. There's no question about that. And I think, just one more little thing, I may be wrong about this, but I was trying to look out the history between the two clubs when they played each other in Europe. I think they played each other in 1991-92. And I think Atletico Madrid knocked them out. So they will have that confidence of knowing, wow, we can beat a European giant, and I think there is something to be said for that as well.
I wanted to talk to finish off. I can't not speak about Cristiano Ronaldo and him playing against them. I think the last time we played against them, he was at Juve, wasn't it? I think they won the first leg.
Yep.
There was that famous clip of him walking past saying, listen, I've won this 3 times or 4 times, whatever he said. And in the home leg back at Juve, he scored a hat-trick and the rest is history, knocked them out. To say it's going to be a hostile reception towards Cristiano Ronaldo every time he touches the ball, is that an understatement? First question. And second question, will they have that, the players, I mean, and Simeone, will they have that little bit of nervousness because it's him, because it's Ronaldo, he is Mr. Champions League. If there's ever question marks over Ronaldo about his ability now and can he do this and can he do that, when it comes to Champions League nights, we know what he can do. And he single-handedly got us into this position from the group stages. Is there going to be a specific plan for him, or is it just going to be, we got to deal with him?
To answer your first question, Remind me again what it was. Sorry, I'm so bad with like my brain was processing the question.
I was thinking she's getting the thinking time because she's actually forgotten what the first question was. I'll be honest. What did I ask? Might have to rewind it. Oh no, I was saying that basically because of the reception that he's going to get there, how hostile is it going to be?
Oh right, yes,
towards him.
Okay.
That was the one.
Sorry. I think it will be hostile. I mean, he obviously is a very well-known foe or enemy, if you will, from his time with Real Madrid. And in the all-time scores of players who've scored the most against Atletico Madrid, Lionel Messi is first and Ronaldo is second. He scored 25 times against them. So I'm sure they'll have that in the back of their mind, knowing that he's more than capable of beating the defense, beating the goalkeeper, whoever it may be at the time. So I'm sure he'll get a very warm welcome back to Spain and try to throw him off of his game. But we all know that doesn't work. If anything, it just motivates him even more.
Absolutely.
But I think they'll be more focused on the collective. I think they'll be looking at Manchester United as a whole rather than just the individual parts. Any kind of specific plan targeted at trying to stop Cristiano Ronaldo. If anything, I think they'll try to cut off the supply line, because we know that Cristiano Ronaldo at 37 now, he can't really do the things that he used to do with so much ease. You know, he can't drop back as much as he used. I mean, I know he's still doing it every now and again this season, but he can't really drop back and carry the ball forward on his own. He's going to need some kind of help. He's going to need, whether it's a combination play or a 1-2 pass or getting on the end of a cross, he's going to need some kind of support. So if anything, I suspect that Simeone will say, okay, right, so the game plan is win the midfield battle, don't allow the ball to get up to the pitch, don't get up the pitch, don't allow the ball to reach Cristiano Ronaldo's feet, and we'll see where he is. Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the games that I've seen Cristiano play, he's kind of wandering all about. He's not really sticking.
What happens is he gets isolated, doesn't really get much of the ball, and then he'll drop off. Then he's on the left wing, just hit a couple of needless passes. Then he goes back to. He just goes.
But it's almost out of frustration, right? Like
100%, yeah.
It's like out of frustration where he's like, guys, give me the ball, do something.
Yeah,
with it,
but it's a weird one though, because on Ronaldo, it's like some bits of it are sad to see, but other bits is like it's father time. It catches up on everybody. I've seen some defenders really just take the ball off him like he's not there. He's falling over, not holding up the ball very well. Link-up play is not very good. But in the last game against Leeds, he was good, and against Brighton, he was good as well. And he's starting to link up more with the likes of Jadon Sancho and Bruno and bring those players into play sometimes. But he's not the same player. But give him a chance in and around, like the goal he scored against Brighton from nowhere, bang, 1-0. So that's what he still possesses. And on this stage as well, the Champions League, this is almost his tournament.
And that's, I think, very similar again with Luis Suarez.
Yeah.
He's someone who's not really mobile anymore, but you give him that chance and he'll take it. I mean, you can't discount his ability to score, even though he's just not who he was. And I think it's definitely the same case with Cristiano Ronaldo. So yeah, it's gonna be really, really interesting.
Well, to summarize, to summarize, what we've learned about Atleti is that they are inconsistent. The pressure is on. Their main player is Correa, not actually, the likes of the GRIEZMANN or João Felix or Carrasco, who is actually missing the game as well, but he's fantastic. Jan Oblak is suffering at the moment and not playing very well. And defensively, the fall from grace has been quite spectacular compared to what Atleti are. So having said that, Semra, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. I'm not going to ask you to predict the whole tie, home and away, one step at a time. But how do you think this game will pan out? What is your gut feeling for a prediction in this game?
I think there will definitely be goals at both ends. I think I'm going to go with a 2-2. I think I'm going to go with a draw.
And you know what? With no away goals, it's just a much of a muchness if that happens. that would usually be a fantastic, amazing result. But in the grand scheme of things, like you said, it's just who gets the better home result, because it doesn't mean anything, a 2-2. But a 2-2, okay, goals in it, fair enough.
I almost think it will be a draw, much to my dismay, because I obviously would love to see the Spanish teams go as far as they can. But I think it'll be 2-2 at the Wanda, and then a victory at Old Trafford. I
for Man United, a victory for Man United.
Yeah, sorry. That's what I meant. I do think they'll slightly edge it, maybe by like a goal, but I think Manchester United will probably progress to the next round.
I hope that prediction is right. I got a feeling along the same kind of lines, but I just feel as long as we keep our nerve, you know, we've been good on the road. But like you said, that analogy of the Forrest Gump of not knowing what you're going to get with the box of chocolates is literally Man United. You could have done that whole preview pretty much and said the same thing about Manchester United.
I know, right?
Because we are very, very similar. Semra, thank you so much for joining us. It's been real fun. I'm looking forward to getting out to Spain, looking around the local area, speaking to supporters, taking it all in. Going to get some nice food. Anything to recommend? Some Spanish nice food? I do like seafood. I do like prawns. I do like chicken. I do like paella. So, you know, anything you can recommend?
Well, you have to get your relaxing cup of café con leche, right?
Okay. Is that coffee?
No, sorry. This is a terrible joke. You need to look us up. Basically,
oh my God, she's done me.
There was a famous mayor of Madrid a few years ago by the name of Ana Botella. And she was trying to promote the city of Madrid and Spain and stuff like that. And so she was encouraging people to come to have a relaxing cup of café con leche. And the joke was that she didn't translate what the coffee was. So yeah, it's just coffee.
I'm gonna have to Google it after.
Sorry, the joke was completely lost on you.
It's only because I don't speak Spanish.
But definitely get some coffee. Madrid, actually, there is a bar called Briante, which is right in front of the Atocha train station. They're really famous for their calamari sandwiches, if you're into that.
Yeah, I could do that. I could do calamari, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, mussels. Those are a typical thing to eat here in Spain. No, you're not into that. Okay.
Not hugely. I'm more of a prawns without the shell guy.
Then you definitely have to get what is called gambas con ajillo, which is prawns with it's cooked in olive oil and garlic.
I like peel prawns. That's what I like, peel prawns. I know them as that, but garlic prawns basically, yeah.
It's delicious. Yeah,
I'm down.
You've got to go for that. You've got to get the pimientos de padrón, which are like the little green peppers,
right?
And they fry them in the pan, and then patatas bravas, which is just standard classic dish you have to get, which is basically it's just fried potatoes with sauce.
Okay. You do realize that you need to message me all these things like that. There is no way I can say those things you just said.
Okay, I'll send you a list. I'll give you the full rundown of what you need to do whenever you're in Madrid.
Exactly. 100%. Listen, Semra, thank you so much for joining us once again. You guys smash a like on the video and subscribe if you are new. Let us know what you think about the in-depth analysis of Atleti. And more importantly, let us know if you agree with Semra's prediction for the actual tie as well. We'll see you again very, very soon from Spain tomorrow. And yeah, take care. Bye-bye.